Hey there, Rick Sage, recording at the Rimrock Studios in Bishop, California. Welcome to Season 2 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I speak with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz and share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks, and ideas you can use to take your career or business to the next level. If you need flexible small business financing, Kabbage has the answer. Kabbage helps small business owners access capital right away without any headaches. Apply online or from your phone. You'll get an automatic decision and you can use any amount you need when you need it. Kabbage has supported over 130,000 small businesses with $4 billion in funding. Visit Kabbage.com/outdoorbiz. When you qualify, you'll get a $50 Visa card that you can use anywhere. That's Kabbage with a K. KABBAGE.com/outdoorbiz. Line of credit is subject to credit approval. See terms and conditions. All Kabbage business loans are issued by Celtic Bank, a Utah Chartered Industrial Bank, member FDIC. I'm excited to be speaking with my good friend and longtime compadre Ricky Schlesinger on the show today. Ricky and I talk about how he got into the outdoor and luggage biz, his experience growing Eagle Creek, and his current project with a Chinese bag retailer, and much, much more. Hey, Ricky, welcome to the show.
Why, thanks, Rick.
Good to be chatting with you. How's it going today?
Not bad. Another sunny day in San Diego.
Yeah, we finally got some warm weather here in Bishop. It's been cold, and today was like 76 or something. So
yeah,
it's warming up. Summer's coming.
Yeah, we're spoiled with Leucadia.
Yeah, yes, you are. I remember it well.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So let's start off with, how did you become an outdoor guy? How did you get into the outdoors?
You know, like most of the things that I got into, sort of backwards.
Okay.
You know? Yeah. I grew up in the New York suburbs. Wasn't particularly an outdoor guy at all. I was more sort of a team sports guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were a ball sports guy, right?
I was.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was one of these guys that played everything pretty well and nothing great. So, you know.
Well, we have that in common.
Yeah, right. I was varsity in a couple of things, but not that much. But
yeah, cool.
hung out with a bunch of athletes and really enjoyed playing all kinds of ball sports.
Nice. And then, so what was your first outdoor related job? Did you?
Well, what happened was
into that too?
Yeah. So I went to American University in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And, you know, you start hanging out with people that you have an affinity with. And next thing you know, these folks that are my better friends, some of which are still my best friends today.
Oh, cool.
Started doing some camping and backpacking in the Shenandoah Mountains, in Virginia.
Nice.
Which is, you know, an hour and a half drive.
Yeah, beautiful.
And, and so I kind of got introduced to that activity really through the college folks that I hung out with.
That's common for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was great. And then after college, a number of us, small group of us, joined the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club. And so we used to do, you know, weekend hikes, and they have a series of primitive cabins up and down the Mid-Atlantic that you can go rent. And some of them are, you know, a hike in and more of a hike in than others. Some of them are more primitive than others.
Cool.
So we used to go out there pretty regularly. And then how I got into the industry was this friend of mine, Neil Caplow, who I went to college with.
Oh, yeah. I know Neil well. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Yeah.
Started Coming Attractions.
Right.
He was the T-shirt king, right?
Yeah.
Great guy. And so we knew each other through most of college. And this is probably 3 years afterwards. And we were both in Virginia still. And he wanted to start up a T-shirt company. And he and this other guy we knew, Phil Nicholson, was an incredible pen and ink drawer. And he did these sketches of backpackers and kayakers and rock climbers and so forth. So I helped Neil start a T-shirt business around Nick's graphics.
Wow, very cool. Did Neil have any experience with T-shirts, or he just kind of thought, it can't be that hard?
You know, Neil can get into something on that basis. He's pretty good at stuff.
Yeah,
right. But he actually was a manager for Herman Sporting Goods. They used to have like I forgot what the outdoor section was. They would have a little sort of adventure retail thing inside their store, and he became a manager for one of those things. And he gets into business that way. And I think what he was seeing was on the soft goods side, JanSport had their branded T-shirts, and there was a rugby company that would sell rugby shirts and stuff like this. This is 1975.
Right. And no, T-shirts were huge. I mean, that was, we all had those things. Yeah.
And so, he had this idea.
Does he still have that artwork? He could relaunch that thing.
He has been working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
He does have that artwork. Awesome. And Nick is still around. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
And I think he still sells that stuff a little bit here and a little bit there. And I think some in Japan. And, so very retro. They're really great.
Yeah.
Really great. So,
all that retro stuff's coming back. So that's good for him.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes, it is. And so the name of that company was Coming Attractions. Yeah,
and then he built that into was it always Coming Attractions? Because he's been going to the show for years with those T-shirts.
Yeah, he was Coming Attractions for a long time, and then it was Sports Science.
That's
I think he evolved into a little bit different deal, and then it was Sports Science because he was doing more performance-based shirts.
Right. Yeah, cool.
And he was doing blanks, and he was doing prints, and he understood that business. He's been in that business a long time, and he knows it as well as anybody on earth does.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very cool.
Right. So funny quick story is so he says, hey, you want to do this thing? And I was thinking of, 24 years old, 25 years old, and wasn't sure what I was going to do, and was thinking about being a high school teacher.
Oh, wow. Really? I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, for about 2 seconds.
Right.
And he said, hey, why don't you help me with this business? And I was like, yep, that's a good reason not to be a teacher.
Any reason.
Right. And, so I kicked in with him and I said, I have got one caveat, Neil. I'll do anything. I'm fine. I'll help you out. We'll see if we can't make this thing work.
Right.
But there's one thing I don't want to do. And he said, what's that? And I said, sell.
Oh my God, really?
Right? Yeah. Because, in my view, I didn't really understand what sales was. And I always thought of the used car guy that's trying to sell something and, selling ice to Eskimos, that kind of a point of view,
right?
To business to consumer sales. And I was like, that ain't me, especially in 1975.
Yeah.
And he was like, fine. And he knew I wasn't a sales guy anyway, because we had known each other for a long time. So 12 months into this thing, I was a national sales manager.
and the rest is history.
Yeah, and the rest is history.
And when you look back on it, did we ever really understand sales? We were just making it up as we went along.
I'm not sure what we understood, but we were making up a lot of stuff, or as Barker says, making shit up.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. So tell us about your experience with Eagle Creek. You were one of the key players in getting that brand going, and you were there from the early, not the beginning maybe, but the early days.
Early. Steve was barely out of the garage. So I left Coming Attractions after 4 years, and it's just time to sort of move on for me. And I get a call from my Southern California Coming Attractions rep.
Okay.
Larry Harrison.
Okay.
Right? Speaking of fixtures in the outdoor industry, and a guy who knows a lot about a lot.
Yeah, right?
So Larry calls me up and he says, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I wasn't miserable about not knowing. I was just not knowing.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And he says, you got to meet my friend Steve. He's starting a backpack company and he could use some help. And if you're not doing anything, why don't you talk to him? Mm-hmm. I'm like, sure. So I flew out to San Diego, Solana Beach, and met with Steve and Nona. And, after a couple of conversations, of course. And
this was still late 70s?
1979.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And he shows me what he's doing. And, he shows me these Eagle Creek mountain packs. And, they were really cool.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that much about it.
That was one of my first backpacks, the Sacred 2. First pack I ever bought.
Man, those were gorgeous, weren't they?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Felt leather straps, Latigo leather bottoms.
Yeah.
The problem with those is that the Lowe brothers were introducing technology into technical packs.
Okay, right.
And so, Eagle Creek was going sort of the wrong way at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. Not that they didn't work great and they weren't beautiful.
Yeah.
But, another aesthetic and design thing was sort of winning the day back in the late 70s.
Right.
And so he shows me these things. Then he shows me these day packs that was under a brand called TWT, Tumbleweed Trans.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, okay, those look pretty sellable. Yeah. And then he shows me this other line, and he shows me these nylon Velcro wallets.
Okay.
Right. And it didn't take me more than a day to realize these nylon Velcro wallets are all over Southern California. I mean, they're selling in backpacking shops. They're selling in sporting goods stores. They're selling in, in beer joints.
Yeah. So, gas stations.
yeah. Right. And meanwhile, I've never seen one. And they were really cool.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I thought maybe this was one of these, back in those days, the California trends that come back east.
Right.
So I said, those are interesting.
Yeah.
So I went to, so anyway, Steve and Nona and I sort of hit it off, and I said, sure, I'll give it a try, and went back to Washington, D.C. and set up an office in the basement in a townhouse in Georgetown.
Nice. Okay.
And so, and I'm thinking, and it was clear that Eagle Creek and Steve and Nona, what they really needed was sales. What they needed was cash flow. What they needed,
right.
It was really early in their business.
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, so what is the path of least resistance? So I take these nylon wallets to Manhattan.
Okay.
And I figure out, all right, who's going to sell these things? Who can sell wallets better than anybody can sell wallets? And it was main floor women's accessories. Right?
Oh, perfect.
Right. So
Macy's.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the first place I went was Bloomingdale's.
Okay.
So I sort of stumble in there. I put my best rolled off the pumpkin truck act on, right?
Yeah.
And I go into the women's wallet buyer, and I said, "You ever see anything like this?" And she's like, "No, those are sort of interesting."
Huh.
She says, let's test these things. So we're going to put them in, 18 stores, and I'll take 144 of each of them.
Wow.
And, right. And
that maxed out production.
Yeah, right. That was like the biggest order Stephen Owen had ever seen.
Right.
And it worked. Right.
Cool. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. So, like any good sales guy, I went across the street to Macy's.
Perfect.
And did that. And next thing you know, we have this really significant. And then we opened up Hudson Trail Outfitters and Herman Sporting Goods. And so we had these things going everywhere because, it's kind of the first mover gets the business in that case.
Yeah, right.
And that was the cash flow that sort of kept the Eagle Creek going. And these guys in Solana Beach thought I was a genius. It was a lucky stumble.
Yeah.
But, they thought I could sell ice to Eskimos. And so, we started there. And then a couple of years later, within about a year, I was running national sales for them. Mm-hmm. In about a year and a half, I was running sales and marketing for Eagle Creek. And I had...
Is that when you came to were you still back east? Or when did you come to California?
Yeah.
I was okay.
So I'm running sales and marketing out of this basement in Georgetown.
Right.
And driving Steve crazy because I don't blame him. It was 3,000 miles away.
Right. Yeah.
And, finally, he says to me, I remember coming to Washington. He said, listen, I need you to move to San Diego. And if you don't, I got to find somebody else to do it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, it could have been worse places, right? San Diego's nice.
Absolutely. Right.
What I knew about
San Diego is what I knew about San Diego is what I heard on a Beach Boys album,
There you go, right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I moved to San Diego and, took over national sales and marketing and, the rest just is history. Bought into the business.
Yeah.
He and I became business partners for 30 years.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And, Nona had Tommy and stepped out of the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we were, the three of us were really well suited for a long time.
Long run.
Yeah, Steve was a serial entrepreneur. I mean, the guy had a great feel for it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Nona had an instinct for design and innovation.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, she just kept inventing. Have you ever seen anything like this? And she brings us a diaper pack. 4 years later, it's our bestseller, right?
Right.
And so anyway.
So you stumbled into the luggage biz too then with the wallets.
Well, actually, the wallets didn't get us in the luggage business. What happened
they got
was...
into the Bloomingdale's and Macy's,
It got me into the distribution.
Right, yeah. Got you into the channel.
But that didn't last that long. A couple of years later, and, as soon as Macy's said, okay, now we want to see stripes and polka dots, and Steve looked at each other. Steve and I looked at each other and went, we ain't stripes and polka dots kind of guys.
Right.
So it's like, let's transition to something else.
Right. So
we basically started making passport carriers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha.
Same production. I mean,
sure.
This is the kind of stuff Steve and Nona, Steve is the entrepreneur, Nona had the design skills to do it. And, right. And so we started a small travel accessory sort of thing off of the nylon Velcro wallet category that we knew couldn't last forever.
Yeah.
So how do we migrate that into something that can work?
Yeah. Right.
Longer term. Right.
Wow.
So we were known to on a pretty regular basis go to Steve and Nona's house and sit in their hot tub, talk about life and talk about business and try to figure out what we're going to do. And we really didn't love being in the technical pack business. It was just, it's a hard way to make a living and to keep a business going.
Has been since the get-go. Yep.
Yeah, no kidding. Because everybody makes great stuff.
Yep.
And
you only need one. I mean,
Yeah, right. And the next innovation in suspension. Yeah. By somebody obsoletes you.
Yeah. Or obsoletes their entire land. They got to start all over. Yeah.
Right. So we schemed up this idea that what we ought to really be in is in the travel business. And in about 1982, we migrated the brand to a whole different place, making very similar products and same factory, same customers, which are outdoor specialty stores.
Sure. Yeah.
And, we started to plow the ground of adventure travel gear. And, we had to invent something where there wasn't anything.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And
because people back then were traveling with technical packs, which as we all know, didn't work. That they worked okay once you got to your destination, but getting there was kind of a pain in the butt.
Right. I mean, the classic in the early '80s, the classic pick for our customers was a Kelty frame pack.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they got a Kelty frame pack, which didn't make a whole lot of sense to go to Europe.
Right.
And and maybe they had a passport carrier and a pair of full grain Vask leather boots.
Right.
Rag wool socks, and there was your American traveler in Europe. Right.
Yeah.
And so we try to figure out, okay, so what are their needs? How do we design product for them? How do we build an assortment, and how do we build a place for ourselves in a category in the outdoor industry? And, the rest was history. And you were part of it.
That's right. I was there for a long time. Yep. I got there in the early 90s, I think is when I got there. Yeah.
Right.
Kept seeing you guys at OR and wanted to get back to San Diego and made it all happen. Yeah. That's a whole nother story.
Right. Different chapter, right?
That's right. Yeah. So basically you guys created the whole adventure travel as a category. And then what was your first entrance into a traditional luggage channel, like with that, soft luggage, soft goods is what they call it.
Yeah, they call it soft goods, right?
Right.
We have a different, application for that term.
Right.
Well, it was interesting. So we said, hey, if we're in the travel business, who else could sell this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
So we started out, we knew the outdoor business, we knew the people, we knew the distribution, we knew how to sell our products there.
Right.
So now you're thinking about where else can you sell your product? So it was kind of obvious that A, travelers shop in luggage stores, and B, luggage stores were behind the curve in terms of what they were offering.
Right.
because there wasn't much in terms of soft luggage there. There was a few people doing a few things,
right.
But in general, the luggage industry was looking for this younger customer. They were looking to expand their business. We were really relevant to them.
Mm-hmm.
So we started going to the luggage show.
Okay.
And man, speaking of standing out like a sore thumb,
Now, did you walk a show first, or you just showed up?
Let's put it this way. If we walked the show, which I can't really remember doing, we didn't learn anything about it.
Okay, got you.
Right?
Yeah.
So for the most part, we just showed up.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
here we are. We got the 10 by 10 booth, right next to the men's room. Right?
Nice. Yeah.
That's where they put sore thumbs. Right. In the worst, and people are, we thought, of course, we're going to kill it because we've got the magic sauce.
Oh, yeah. Industry. Something totally unique. Right.
Right. It took a long, long time.
Yes, it did.
But we got there. Yeah. And Barker was particularly, alien to that because, he is a true blue outdoors guy.
All the way. Yeah. All the way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm a Jewish guy from New York.
Yeah, right.
So at least I could talk to him.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly.
But it took us a while. It took us a while to tell our story. They liked our accessories, and we fought our way from passport carriers into day packs, into soft luggage. And we finally got there, but, nothing happens overnight.
No, that was because we were still, when I got there in 91, I think we were still struggling with the luggage biz. I mean, it was tough.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a lot to overcome. I mean, they
were tough too. Those guys were some of the toughest buyers I've ever sold to.
Yeah.
I mean, they would bust your chops just to say hello,
Yeah. But, it's kind of like a lot of industries. Either you're an outsider or you're an insider.
Right. Yeah.
And once you get in there, you're a great bunch of people.
Yeah.
But, we didn't understand them.
Yeah.
They didn't
you got to
understand.
prove your worth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to earn your chops.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So once our business got to a point where it was relevant, we started to sell them some stuff that was, made them a couple of bucks, and and we grew our business inside of their business.
Right. Yeah.
And we became, I think as a brand we became a fixture there. And,
I think so. Yeah. Exactly.
And fast forward 20 years later, I was on the board of directors and chairman of the TGA.
Right, exactly.
Right. But I always felt like I was an interesting fit for that organization, for that industry. Yeah. But they were great people too.
Yeah, great people. Yeah, some of the best. Still have some great friends there. Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so you were also at Eagle Creek when the whole Clive venture launched. I think Barker tells a story. Had his son Tommy coming up, this new younger generation. What the hell are we going to sell them? And Clive was kind of born, right? Is that kind of how that happened?
Yeah. Nona left the business to have Tommy the son.
Yeah. Tommy got beyond the age where we couldn't put him in a box and try to ship him away anymore. So
yeah, right. We kept making that box bigger and bigger.
Sure, we tried, didn't we?
Right.
Yeah.
And and Steve is, again, he's really a serial entrepreneur. He's always looking for the new opportunity, and I say that in the best of ways.
Yeah.
And you watch your kid grow up and you see what they're into, and you see that there's a whole generation of kids like him. And, why can't we make bags that work for that?
Sure.
And so we did. So, he conceived of it.
Yeah.
We got together some guys, a core group of 3 guys from the action sports business, out of the snowboard, skateboard business.
Yeah.
And Barker sent me downstairs and put me in charge of it.
Yeah.
And right, so I was president of Clive.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Right. It was the first time I felt like a suit. Maybe it was the only time I ever felt like a suit.
Nice.
Right. Suddenly, I'm the mature guy in the room.
Yeah, I'm the adult in the room. How'd that happen?
Right. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
But it was really fun, and we did really well for a while. And no business is easy. And when 9/11 happened, right, 2001, and nobody wanted to get on airplanes or travel for a few years, and our business, the Eagle Creek business started taking on water.
Yeah.
Is we had to sacrifice Clive throw it overboard in order to keep Eagle Creek afloat. Essentially,
gotcha. Yeah. That's tough.
And those are the tough decisions. But those are sometimes those are the survival moments.
Yeah. Well, and fast forward. I mean, I guess it kind of worked because Eagle Creek is still alive and well today. So,
right.
That was,
and it did.
And you recovered strongly, and
right. We weren't so sure.
I bet there are times when, that was right after I left when all that happened. I was up at Dana Design when that happened, but I can imagine you guys are just scratching your heads, going, "Man, is this ever going to come back?" What
Oh, I was miserable. I mean, we went from the peak of success to chutes and ladders, and
in a short amount of time too. Yeah,
in a really overnight.
Yeah, right.
And I wasn't convinced entirely that we were going to get out of it.
Yeah, right.
So we spent a couple of years hand-to-hand combat, and Bert Fernanga on the finance side, he was a miracle worker keeping the banks in the deal.
Yeah.
And Dale Pank on the manufacturing and operations side, we transitioned our entire manufacturing from Mexico to the Far East because we couldn't afford to keep all of our factories open anymore.
Right.
And, Dale was a miracle worker over there.
Yeah.
And Barker put up with it all. And, I kept going out into the market going, he's going to come back,
Yeah. I may not believe it, but it's going to come back. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, those tough times, yeah. And so...
Yeah, I came up with this line that I used on all of our sales reps for 2 years. I had to prop them up in the chair, which was, life is linear. The business is cyclical.
Okay. Oh, I like it. That's good. Yeah.
Right?
That's very true.
I said, I ain't never going to be 45 again, but this thing's coming back.
Yeah. No, that's very true. That's I love that saying. You have to be on a t-shirt. Tell Neil to put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, believe me, I just beat that drum to death.
Yeah.
They were tired of hearing it from me, but we had to keep our organization motivated. And
you got to try to stay positive through it all, right? Yeah. It's tough.
So, those were the days.
And so now you've been working with an Asian retailer, helping them with bags, right? Luggage and bags and travel goods and all that. Yeah.
So Barker and I, with the help of Sally McCoy, sold the brand in 2007 to VF.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was just fortunate too. I mean, just for everybody, mostly us.
Yeah.
And Barker and I stayed there for 3 years. We were contractually obligated to hang in there. So, as well as a whole bunch of other people that were, old-time Creekers stayed as well.
Yeah.
And we both walked out the door in 2010. And as I'm walking out the door, my Chinese distributor, who is a woman by the name of Daisy Kong, and she owns a business in China, she and her sister and her brother, really sizable business. And she says, "So what are you going to do?" So for another time in my life, I said, "Well, I don't really know."
Right.
And at this moment, I don't even really care.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Play golf. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, sure. Take some time off and relax. I've been busting my chops lately.
Yeah. This has been a tough 30.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right. So she says, "Why don't you come help us?" And I said, "Sure." So I started doing a little bit of consulting. They're out of Suzhou, China. And their business model is really interesting. They represent European and U.S. brands, Western brands, and sell them in China to the Chinese.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they have...
so it gets made over there, it comes back over here, it gets marketed, and it goes back over there.
It only comes back here in spirit, not logistically.
True, yeah, true. Yeah.
Right. So the fact, the stuff's all made in Asia, it always was. It isn't necessarily in China, but, some country in China.
Mm-hmm.
So, we take the goods directly from the factory, obviously, because shipping them back and forth is just too costly. And they have about 85 stores.
Oh, wow.
Retail stores. They have a online presence that is even bigger than their stores.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a wholesale division that sells to other retailers as well, the B2B opportunities.
Oh, okay.
So their model is essentially multi-branded, multi-channel.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. Yeah.
really smart.
They got it all covered.
Really smart.
Right.
Yeah. And they had a history in the manufacturing business. And then they decided that when they saw the middle class in China moving up economically and retail starting to happen in China, they were like, hey, let's go get a piece of this too.
Sure.
And so they licensed a bunch of brands. So they got the Swiss Army brands, Wenger and Swiss Gear. And they hounded me for a couple of years, and I hired them to do Eagle Creek.
Okay.
And they had 7 or 8 different brands that, some from Europe and some from the U.S., one from Israel, actually, and would sell them through all these channels. So I started to work with them doing all kinds of different things, executive coaching and organizational development. And I brought them some new brands. I went over to my old friend, Mike Wallenfels, who was running Timbuktu at the time.
There you go. Yeah.
And I said, you got a China deal? And he said, no. I said, I think I got one for you.
Wow.
So
Perfect.
we took on Timbuktu and had roughly the same conversation with Briggs & Riley, Richard Krulik, who's an old buddy of mine also on the luggage side.
Yeah.
He said, you got a China deal? And he said, no. I said, I think I got one for you. So we cleared some way. And so we have Timbuktu and Eagle Creek and Briggs & Riley and the Swiss Army and a couple of other brands. And we run them, market the brand, sell the product in China.
That's awesome.
Really interesting. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was such a lucky stumble. And, the best part of it for me is like, I'm the only Westerner in the organization.
Oh yeah. So when you get to travel around, you get to see the backdoor side of things. That's pretty awesome.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great,
Yeah.
And it's sort of, so I've been doing, fast forward 7 years, I'm still doing it.
Oh, well, good for you. I didn't realize it's been that long.
These things never last that long.
Yeah,
but,
great.
I've built the great people. And, like a lot of businesses, it's people oriented.
Yeah.
And so I've, developed a lot of really good friendships over there. And I go to Suzhou, China 3 or 4 times a year.
Nice.
Outside of Shanghai.
Good for you.
And do whatever I can to make their business successful, whether it's negotiating a deal or helping them build an annual plan or a new business strategy or.
So what were some of the biggest challenges for you jumping into that side of the world?
Well, at first it was just trying to understand what that market was like.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At first, like everybody, maybe this was true 7 years ago, but it became not true really quickly. Everybody assumed that this young market in China was going to be just an immature model of the U.S. market.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it was all really new.
Yeah.
So, all of us Westerners went over there and went, okay, we know how this is going to go.
Yeah.
Right?
We got it. We've been here.
We got it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what's happened certainly in the last 5 years, and maybe what's happening all the time, is China's its own model. It really is different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And, all of the things that you think that you can translate about the Western markets and how they work don't necessarily work in China.
And the size alone, I mean, weren't you just, I was, gobsmacked by the size. You get to these cities, oh, yeah, we're just going up to this little town. There's like 2 million people there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's like 800 cities that have over 500,000 people in China.
Right. Yeah. So that's got to affect retail in ways we don't know about.
Right. So, you have big access to, a big population, it's highly competitive.
Yeah.
And technology now has moved way beyond technology here as far as digital technology.
Yeah.
Quick story is, I was over there last week, but the same thing happened last year. You sit down at a restaurant with a group of people, right? And you notice that there's a QR code that's screwed down to the corner of the table.
Okay.
Right? You take out a smartphone and you ping the QR code.
Yeah.
Their menu comes up.
Oh, wow.
Right? So now you're looking at the menu on your smartphone and everybody's looking around. You look at what you want. So you get familiar with that. Then you order on that app.
Right on the phone.
Right on the phone.
Nice.
Right? You haven't seen anybody yet other than, the person leads you to your table.
Yeah.
So the first service person you see is bringing you your food.
Wow.
Right? And then when you're done, I'm like, Amy, so, let's get the check and get out of here. Oh, no, we paid already. Oh, really?
On the phone. Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Very cool.
So this is like an everyday occurrence. I mean, this is how they live. So that, the technology is so different and so far ahead.
Yeah, I remember when I first went to Japan with Montbell, you go there and you can get coffee and beer and food out of a vending machine with your smartphone.
Right.
And they had smartphones that did that. We didn't have smartphones that could do that, It's like, wow, hey, what's going on here? Yeah.
Yeah. So, so that's one example. E-commerce is so huge over there. It's cannibalizing by the second, brick and mortar sales. Mm-hmm. So much so that in China, they refer to online sales as e-commerce sales as online sales. Brick and mortar, they refer to as offline, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So the reference is online sales, and the secondary channel is brick and mortar.
Interesting. So are the brick and mortar guys more of a showroom? Can you go? It's a showroom, and you just use your phone and the QR code and order it, and it goes to your house. Is it that sophisticated yet?
It's not quite there yet, but that's where it's moving. Right now, they're just trying to figure out, so the guys that are predominantly brick and mortar guys, they're just trying to figure out what the hell happened to my business and how do I get over and how do I get over to online as quick as I can.
Same thing the guys are doing here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But but worse.
And a much larger scale too. Yeah.
On a larger scale. And and technology, that they're saying that right now online sales about, I think the number is somewhere between 70 and 80% of the transactions are done on a smartphone.
Wow. Over there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
80%. I can't see my phone well enough.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
That's amazing.
But that's where the Chinese consumer is,
Yeah.
And they have a different social media. They call it WeChat.
Mm-hmm,
they have two kinds of pay systems on your phone. So cash is, it still exists, but it's almost extinct. Mm-hmm. So you can, you go to a clothing store and you can either, you pay by either Alipay, which is Alibaba's Pay.
Okay. Yeah.
Program. It's like Apple Pay, except it's highly used here.
Sure. Yeah.
Or there's another one that's WeChat Pay, which is this social media, has its own pay system. So,
and those systems are all tied to everybody's credit cards, or
bank
account or whatever. Yeah,
bank. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
interesting.
The model is not this model. Alibaba's Tmall makes Amazon, look like a small deal.
Yeah.
And so between the two biggest platforms in China, online platforms, control like 70% of consumer purchases.
Wow, that's amazing. And do they purchase everything other than, hard goods and apparel and that kind of stuff? Has it gone to grocery and beverages and you just get everything delivered to your house? You just, the box is there every day.
I think so. Wow. And they get delivery is quick and and I don't live there every day, so I can't pretend I actually can operate like that.
Yeah. When you're there,
right? I'm just hanging around my Chinese friends, and they operate like that.
Yeah.
And I go, wait a minute, what's that?
Yeah. How do I do that? Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
And my head's spinning. So the idea that us Westerners know more and that our model is defining where their future is.
Yeah.
Is, now their model's starting to define where our future is.
Right. Yeah. No,
crazy.
It's we have a lot to learn, I think, not only from the business side of that, but just the cultural side too. I mean, let's take a back seat here, folks. We are no longer, the smartest folks on the planet, if we ever were. And let's learn a little bit,
Right. Another one of the keys to working in Asia and China specifically is, and this was a really hard thing to sort of learn for a Westerner and for me, is, we think in terms of black or white, right? Duality.
Yeah.
It's this or it's that. It's right or it's wrong. It's good or it's evil. It's black or it's white. These things, whereas they believe, and their whole world is around non-duality, which basically is it's black and it's white at the same time.
Right.
It's this and it's that at the same time. And it's really an Asian point of view. And I think it's an enlightened point of view, frankly, because very rarely is it clearly black or white.
Yeah.
And, when you say it's shades of gray, you're sort of really talking about, a non-duality kind of viewpoint.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so when you're trying to add value to their world, you got to think. You got to think along the lines that they think.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So that was another learning curve for me.
Very cool. That must be exciting for you. That's great.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about some nonprofit work you do? I know you're involved in a couple things down there. Outdoor Outreach is one I know about. And
right. So when I was also leaving Eagle Creek, one of the things I was thinking about is, life has been so good for me. I got to give back somehow. It would be ridiculous to not.
Mm-hmm.
And Outdoor Outreach is a San Diego company or a nonprofit organization that takes, basically kids at risk, underprivileged kids. I don't think that's an appropriate term, underprivileged, but, kids at risk, kids that need it most, and takes them outdoors. And so they have this outdoor programming, and they go into high schools, and they go into foster homes, and they go into, they work with a lot of immigrant kids.
Cool.
And they take them outdoors, and not just once, but they have programs, for it,
And all kinds of outdoor activities, right?
Yeah, and they do rock climbing, they do mountain biking, they do snowboarding, they'll do snorkeling, surfing, stand-up paddle, and it's really an incredible organization. So I got on their board in 2010, and I'm chairman of the board now, just because I missed the meeting. And
that's how that works.
Yes, it is. There's one thing for attendance.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've been chairman for a few years, and it's a privilege to be part of the organization. They serve 1,500 kids a year.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and they change kids' lives, and I'm a small cog in that wheel.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's great.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And then the other thing I'm involved with, and I've been for a while, and you probably chewed your ear on this one, is I'm involved in a Buddhist temple locally, Vista Buddhist Temple.
Uh-huh.
And my family's been practicing Buddhist for 17 or 18 years.
Right. Yeah.
And,
I don't think I knew you were doing that. That's great. I don't think. Yeah. Cool.
And so. We started out when our kids were young and try to bring spirituality in our kids. And my wife is Japanese American. She grew up a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, and she actually made the call. She said, "You want them to be Jewish? You want them to be Buddhist?" I said, "I already tried the Jewish thing. Let's go with them. Let's try Buddhism.
Yeah.
I'll take Buddhism for 100."
Right. Oh, and, I knew you guys were practicing. I didn't know you were that involved in the temple, though. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm president of the temple now.
That's great. Good for you.
Yeah. It's real, and that has been really helpful for me personally, and that's a lifelong pursuit.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I'm any good at it.
Well, I don't think you ever perfect any of these things, right? I took up meditation a while back, and I still have this monkey mind that races all around, and I'm going, I didn't get anything done there. What the hell was that all about?
Right. Here's the good news: I didn't have to do anything while I was doing it.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Right. So, So, and I remind everybody, I'm president of Temple is an administrative role. It's not a spiritual role.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Doesn't make me a good Buddhist. And so I do that.
Uh-huh.
And, and I feel like these things are my ability to give back, the things I learned through 35 years of being in business, working with you and working with Barker and all these other guys. And, and finding other ways to make organizations successful.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yep, I'm doing the same thing. I'm on a couple boards and
I know you
same
are.
thing.
I know you are.
Fun.
It's really fun.
It is, yeah.
You think you don't know anything until you get into a different environment.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all the stuff that you know is like incredibly valued to some other organization. And you thought everybody in the room knew that shit already.
Yeah, right. Exactly. No, you're right.
Right?
Yeah. So I know you still get outside. We've played golf recently. We need to do that again. What other outdoor activities do you do? Those kids must keep you busy doing all kinds of stuff.
I do. I'd like to say I go out with the kids more often than not, but, I'll go out on one of the trips occasionally, and I'm the grunt on the trip, and it's the best place for me to be. Right?
Bringing up the rear.
It's the only thing I'm skilled at when it comes to, being on that trip and youth development. I mean, I can teach. Yeah.
That's good.
And then, I live a couple of blocks from the beach, so I run pretty regularly.
Oh, good. Uh-huh.
And so 5 days a week, if I'll probably run 3 or 4 of them and play golf 1 or 2 if I'm home. So
Cool.
I still play a lot of golf.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I know. You've always kicked my butt.
Yeah, well, you let me. I get to play a lot more.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's what that game's all about. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I go trekking when I get a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I do some hiking in China, which is really interesting.
Oh, bet. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've taken our family trips. They're all about sort of outdoor adventures. When my kids are older now, they're 26 and 23. But, throughout their life, Judy and I have taken them on kinds of outdoor and adventure and third world trips because that's where we wanted to go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's
right?
great. Yeah.
And so try and occasionally go skiing, and I stay reasonably fit. I'd like to
you
be.
do. You always have. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I do outdoors. I hike around occasionally.
Cool. So, do you have any advice for anybody either wanting to get into the outdoor business or luggage business, or if they're already in, how to grow their career? Any suggestions there?
Well, I would start with there are no easy answers, and and the business really isn't the same business. I mean, the products are the same, the outdoor pursuits are the same. The consumer is doing the same thing. How you get to that consumer is so different now, than this, I'm glad I got out when I did because, my skills have become obsolete, I think, in most of these industries. But the one thing that,
it's changed, that's for sure. Yeah.
It has, and outdoor specialty retail is, in significant danger of being extinct. Online is the place to be. And, I would say for, what Barker and I learned with Eagle Creek is if you're going to start a business up, you've got to understand what your core competence is and, what your leverage point is. And that, if you have to, in order to be competitive in a marketplace, you've got to be better than most other people at something, whether it could be, people think it's cost right away, but it doesn't have to be cost.
Right.
You could be more innovative. You could be cheaper. You could be more convenient. You could have better relationships, but you've got to have a point of leverage.
Yeah.
And if you can't find that, and if you can't figure out what your core competence is, as my Jewish mother would say, don't bother.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so many people go into business thinking, I really love the outdoors. I want to start an outdoor business. It's like, okay, so what are you really good at?
Yeah.
How are you going to beat the competition and find your niche in the marketplace?
Right.
So there's my pearl of wisdom.
That's good.
For
I like
a lot of decades.
That's good. That's good advice. Yep.
Yeah.
And do you have what are some of your favorite books, or do you give books as gifts very often?
I do. Let's see. Most of the books I give out are, people always ask me about Buddhism.
Okay, that makes sense.
As though I could explain it.
Well, no, but you got more years of experience at it than I do, so.
Yeah, well, I do. But I find it really tough to explain. So the books I give more often than not is anything by Thich Nhat Hanh.
Okay.
He's
you're gonna have to email me that so I can spell it for the show notes.
I will. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese Zen Buddhist who left Vietnam in the 70s and started a retreat center in France.
Oh, wow.
And he's probably the second most influential after the Dalai Lama, which everybody knows, he's a household word.
Sure, right.
But Thich Nhat Hanh is probably the second most influential global Buddhist leader. And
great.
He's even more prolific in his writings. And so he writes these small, short, easy to understand books that are really great.
Oh, cool. We'll link to those. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And I'll get you the spelling. Yeah. And I'll send you a book.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I love all that new stuff, learning new things like that. Yeah.
And I don't follow specifically his practice, but my wife follows his practice and our Jodo Shinshu practice, which is a Japanese-based practice.
Gotcha.
But I still I think he's the best read
Oh, cool.
in Buddhism.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. I can always use a dose of that.
Yeah.
And do you have a favorite outdoor gear purchase under $100?
I'll tell you what my wife would say. She would say it's a fleece zip turtleneck.
Okay.
I own a closet full of them.
Gotcha.
And every time I buy another one, she says, well, which one are you going to throw away?
Well, that's good. One in, one out. That's a good strategy.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't throw them away. I give them away.
Yep.
But
awesome.
But nonetheless, I would say that's probably the item that I buy the most from an outdoor store.
That's a good piece of gear to have. You can't go wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And as we wrap up here, anything else you'd like to say to the audience or ask of the audience?
Can't think of anything.
Yeah,
but
right.
Thanks for listening, and take care of my buddy Rick.
They're all doing well. Yep, they're all doing well.
Good.
And how can people reach out to you if they want to reach out and ask questions? LinkedIn is the best way, or your email?
I'm on LinkedIn, but
okay.
My email is rickyschlesinger@gmail.com.
Cool. All right, we'll put a link there.
I'm a Facebook guy occasionally, though I'm a little disappointed in them right now. But
I think a lot of people are. Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of entertainment out of it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do too. Yeah. Well, we'll put a LinkedIn link and your email and link to your Facebook page, and people can follow up. Well, thanks, Ricky. It's been great chatting with you. I look forward to seeing you and playing golf soon.
Yeah, let's catch up.
We'll do. All right. Thanks a lot.
See you, man.
All right. Bye. All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Ricky Schlesinger. You can catch up with Ricky by email at rickyschlesinger@gmail.com, LinkedIn, and Facebook. That's spelled RICKYSCHLESINGER. You'll find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episode 90. Be sure to hit your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. Thanks for listening. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure and go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you'll find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be sure and make time to get outside.